Well, I want to thank my colleague, Senator Murkowski, but I also want to greatly thank my colleagues, Senator Smith and Senator Cortez Masto. I have another appointment, and I, of course, always have burning questions, and I promise there'll be questions, not diatribes. And so I want to start with one of my greatest concerns, as you know, which is public safety. I've had a chance to visit with a lot of you addressing the challenges, and I understand your staffing and your challenging needs, but I don't understand this budget. And so in 2016, BIA submitted a report to Congress estimating that to provide a minimum base level of public safety and judicial services to all federally recognized tribes, it would cost approximately $2.3 billion. And so currently, BIA has only met a fraction of that. If BIA knows that we need additional increased funding and that we haven't met that need to meet baseline, and that's the words of BIA, are we sending a message to our tribes that their public safety isn't as important as the public safety of any other citizen in this country? And we'll start with you, Mr. Sorry.
Tasuda, thank you. Thank you, Senator. So law enforcement is obviously a very important priority for this administration. It's obviously important for those who live on reservation communities. The number that you cited, I think, includes a broad range of situations that exist around Indian country. As you know, the jurisdictional map that is Indian country varies greatly. So we have some large land-based reservations, such as
you're not, can I just interrupt because I don't have a lot of time? How can you possibly say you're getting enough to protect Native women, Native children, and Native people when you're actually looking at almost a decrease in public safety?
Well, we're focusing on
No, these numbers are yours.
Yes.
2.3 billion, that's your number. That's BIA's number. So if that's your number for a baseline support, then why isn't that in the budget? Why isn't that number the request for the budget? Because the single biggest challenge that I have in my state is public safety. I just talked to the police chief of Belcourt. He is begging for help. I have people all over North Dakota in Indian country begging for help. I need you guys to be the advocates. I need you guys to say we're going to do the minimal amount that we need to provide public safety. And that includes places where people can be incarcerated. So I don't want to hear about how it can't get done. I want to hear how you're advocating. I think Mr. Payment made a great point, which is you're the trustee. You should be the advocate. I get that you may not want to fund housing or you may not want to fund education, but fundamentally, keeping people safe has to be the highest priority. Security has to be the highest priority. Without that, we don't have opportunity for anything else. And we need an advocate. Can you promise me, and I know this is tough, we need to take it back to the Secretary, we need to take it back to Mulvaney. I've talked to the Attorney General, Jeff Sessions, about this. This cannot get ignored. The Department of Justice needs to step up, BIA needs to step up if we're going to protect women and children in Indian country. And if we're not willing to step up, then let's just admit that they're second-class citizens. They aren't entitled to the same protection that other people in this country are entitled to. Yeah, I mean, can you say you're going to take our concerns back?
I will take your concerns back. They're part of the discussion that we have. And again, we're trying to focus on, and I can't speak to what happened before I came to the department, but we are...
do you agree? Do you personally agree with the $2.3 billion?
So I would have to go back. I'm not sure where that number came from. I know there were prior efforts to put funding into areas where we don't have clear law enforcement jurisdiction. I'm not sure if that's part of what was in that number, but we are focused on where we have core responsibilities and clear jurisdictional responsibilities.
If you don't agree with that number, can you give me the number that you think, can you give me a needs assessment, talking to, in consultation with all the other tribes on what it's going to take to get basic law enforcement services in Indian country in this country?
Well, I think our budget reflects two goals. One of which is to strengthen law enforcement in the areas where we have clear jurisdiction, and we are, as you know, in several of your reservations, we don't have the sufficient force there to be that. That's something we're working strongly on. As you suggested in our phone call the other day, we're turning over the rock the fifth time in certain matters, and we have part of this is training and getting more officers through our system. And so it's not a simple answer of just saying throwing more money at it. It's trying to analyze how we're doing the job most efficiently, and are we putting those resources to the best use? And that's what we're trying to do.
If you can just indulge me one more question. Would you agree that right today in North Dakota, which is what I know the most about, we have inadequate, grossly inadequate law enforcement services in Indian country?
I think we have some difficulties, I will admit, and it's a challenging environment. It's not, again, we struggle to get people through the system and to identify where they can go and where they will be most effective. So it's also in Indian country at large. We have, a force that is probably less than most other law enforcement agencies deal with. We have greater territories to cover, more scarce populations, and so that's a factor that we have to deal with.
But some of the highest rates of violent crime in this country,
yes,
the highest rates of drug use,
yes,
the highest rates of criminality, and the lowest rates of protection by law enforcement. Right. That's what I see in my state. And so we've got to fix this, and we need an advocate in your job. Thank you.
Toward that end, Senator, we have in the budget funding for an additional 17 drug enforcement officers, and hope that we get support for that. Yes, yes. They work in concert with other drug enforcement task forces.
I could use 1.7 just in North Dakota.
Well, and not
Thank you.
to